Hey guys, it's Dr. Justin Marcagiani here. We're going to do a quick live Q&A on a couple different topics. So first one is going to be on TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone testing, and why that may not be enough to assess your thyroid. Most people that have thyroid issues, they're going to their conventional medical doctor or their endocrinologist and they're trying to get their thyroid looked at. They're like, hey, maybe I have these thyroid symptoms. They're looking online, they're reading, they're educating themselves, and they're like, hey, I think I have thyroid issues. They come back, they say, no, your TSH is below 5, you're okay. Well, that may not be the case. Before we dive in, please smash that like button as well. Put your comments down below. Let me know your thoughts on the topic that we're talking about here. All right, so TSH, that stands for thyroid stimulating hormone. So we have essentially our brain. In the top part of the brain, we have our hypothalamus, then our pituitary. Our pituitary makes TSH. So it actually goes hypothalamus, TRH, thyroid releasing hormone. And then thyroid releasing hormone tells the pituitary to make TSH, thyroid stimulating hormone. TSH goes to the thyroid. So it's hypothalamus, TRH, the pituitary, TSH from the pituitary to the thyroid. And then TSH then stimulates T4 production, which then gets converted peripherally 20%, systemically at the different parts of the body, liver 20%, healthy gut intestinal bacteria, and then systemically just through having a good hormonal milieu, meaning if we have a lot of insulin resistance, cortisol, all those things can affect thyroid conversion. So just keep that in the back of your head. So in general, what most conventional doctors or endocrinologists are doing, they're just looking at the brain hormone that talks down to the thyroid and says, hey, thyroid, make some T4. Make some T4. Now, T4 it's an important hormone, right? Tetraiodothyronine, T4. Tetra means 4. Iodothyronine meaning 4 molecules of iodine. There's this deiodination process. Deiodination, D meaning pulling off one iodine. So you go from T4 to T3. Triiodothyronine, and that's a more metabolically active compound. T3 is about 3 to 4 times more metabolically active than T3 is 3 to 4 times more metabolically active than T4. So, in other words, T4 is not the metabolic stronghold for your thyroid hormone. So, most conventional people, they're looking at TSH. That's a volume, a brain hormone that talks to the thyroid. The goal of TSH is if we're screaming loud, person's over there, I'm saying, hey, how you doing, Joe? If they can't hear me, I raise my voice, right? So the idea is if you can't hear me, I'm raising the volume. So same thing with the thyroid. We're making the assumption that, hey, because the brain's yelling over to the thyroid, that the thyroid's not producing enough thyroid hormone. Now, it's possible that's the case. Sometimes you need to yell for that thyroid to make some hormone. So it may be doing what it needs to do to get the hormone production up. What you'll start to see over time is that thyroid's going to yell, and that person over there, right? Or I'm sorry, that pituitary is going to yell, right? TSH is yelling to that thyroid over there, and over time, what starts to happen is that thyroid starts to produce less and less and less and less thyroid hormone. This is common. So when you start to see that raise in volume, a lot of times that thyroid has already been dropping for a very long time. So you may have a 5 or 10 year drop in thyroid hormone before that volume becomes high enough, 4.5, 5 on a TSH, for your conventional doctor to say anything. And this is what's problem, because you may be suffering with cold hands, cold feet, hair loss, outer third eyebrow thinning, libido, anxiety, motility issues, dry skin, the list goes on, right? So you may be suffering for a very long time because TSH starts to rise long after T4, and sometimes T4 looks good. Sometimes it's just T3 that's dropping, right, for a period of time. And so you may miss it for years. And there's scientific articles talking about that TSH is a late stage indication of thyroid dysfunction. So you really want to keep that in the back of your head when you're going to your conventional medical doctor. Just know they're only going to run TSH. Maybe they run T4, and maybe they see a problem on T4, but most of the time you're going to see it with that T4 to T3, and almost none of the time are they going to ever run thyroid antibodies. And that's important because thyroid antibodies, for most thyroid issues, tends to be an underlying root cause of why the thyroid issue is there in the first place. In other words, TPO antibody or thyroglobulin antibody, those antibodies are actually what attacks the thyroid tissue. And so you have this autoimmune attack. Antibodies are attacking it, and over time, that tissue loses the ability to be functional, doesn't produce thyroid hormone. That follicle isn't deiodinating and going through the whole iodination process and binding tyrosine and iodine and thyroid hormone together. It loses that ability, and then you're left with scar tissue that's really not functional. And that's what happens for most people. So when you're dealing with thyroid issues, yeah, you want to get tested. You don't want to put all your stock in TSH or T4. You want to understand the root cause of why that thyroid issue came to be to begin with. If there's antibodies, you want to know. You want to get those antibodies down as much as you can, especially if it's, greater than a couple hundred. You want to get that down. You want to look at the underlying mechanisms of why those antibodies would be high, whether it's gluten, dairy, food allergies, infections, nutrient deficiencies, imbalance in insulin and cortisol and inflammation, and toxins like mercury, heavy metals, mycotoxins, right? Gut permeability can drive a lot of it too. So hope that makes sense, gives you a little bit more insight. So when you're talking to your conventional doctors, you kind of understand where they're coming from and just, have that perspective. You're probably going to have to go to a more natural functional medicine person to get a really good look-see at what's happening. Again, this is Dr. J here. I hope you enjoyed today's video. If you did, put your comments down below. Let me know what you think. And if you want help diving into your thyroid and going beyond just what a TSH test can do for you, definitely reach out below. Links below for you guys to reach out. And again, if your TSH is high, there definitely is a thyroid problem. My big concern is there may be a thyroid problem if your TSH isn't high. And that's where you have to look downstream at the other T4, T3, maybe the T4 total, T3 total, and also the antibodies, and maybe reverse T3 as well. Hope that helps, guys. Dr. J here signing off. Have a phenomenal day. Take care. Bye.